Jackie, you're adorable. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, too low. There you go. Oh, he can't even see you. You're so dark. Let's try this. It's the background behind you. You are so cute. You're dressed for the holiday. Say hi to YouTube. Merry Christmas. Woof, woof. All right, so there's a reason why she's on camera. I'll give you another treat. And I will have to mess with this to make it a little bit better. Here you go. That's for you. Good girl. You stay right there. Let's change this so it's not so blinding. Maybe you'll be more visible. Yeah, there you go. You look so good. Yeah. Is this going to focus? Everyone's like, why am I watching a dog? Trust me, there's a good reason. Here's another one. Oh, I'm not in the shot. I'm too high. Let me come down here next to you. So we want to wish you Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And if you don't celebrate nothing, I hope you have a great day. And we hope that your reef tank is nice and healthy. But you know, I wanted to get Jack on here first before she disappears. But there is something else that's for her that hasn't happened yet. She has no idea. So let me change cameras. Alrighty, so that was fun. So you see behind me, there are goodies back here because it's time for gift giving. I know everyone says it's for other reasons, but I do enjoy the gifts. So I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas again. Jack, you are so cute. Here's another treat. I'm going to keep her entertained. Good girl. You're leaning. You are leaning. You are so funny. Okay, so today's topic is going to be quick. The live stream will be quick too, because I'm sure all of you have so much to do. The fact that anyone's here is a miracle. It shows 28 people instead of 150. So I wanted to emphasize the point that when it comes to gift giving, when it comes to aquariums, it's much better to communicate what you would like or what you would like to give them if this is your spouse than it is to just buy them a surprise and bring it home like a fish or a coral or an anemone or any of those things. Because if you just show up with livestock, their tank might not be a good fit. And you're just trying to do something nice, or you thought it was really pretty, or you like the color, the way you like the way it looked. And in those scenarios, things could go really wrong badly. And again, it's an animal involved. And we don't want to take a chance to hurt the animal or to risk its life. So I wanted to emphasize that it's so much better to just talk to your spouse. Or you can give them things that they can plug in, you know, or that they can add to their tank, you know, additives, foods, all that kind of stuff is super safe to buy. And if you are here at the very end of, you know, just as things are closing the next couple of hours, you're going to, you know, run out of time. But even then, this pertains to birthdays and all the other holidays too. We definitely don't want to make a mistake and give them something that would be a problem and cause friction in the aquarium. Jack, you're so cute. Oh my goodness, look at this cute dog. I love her so much. Look at her. Look at her. She's being so good for y'all. Okay, so yes, dry goods are good. Let me see what we can do here. Oh, I'll switch back to this camera. That makes no sense. So Jack, how are we going to do this? We need you on camera for this. Let me move this one wire down here. And maybe everyone will be able to see you possibly. Try and decide if I'm going to like this. I mean, it's not ideal, but maybe I could move this. No, we're just going to make it work. All right, so I'm going to switch cameras again. Oh, move my keyboard. That would be 2. Jack, come here. Come here. That's your butt. They don't want to see your butt. You're being so good. All right, Jack. We're going to have to fast forward this because you guys are going to go crazy. So, Jack, there's a lot of presents up here. And this one is for my son. This is for my grandson. This is for my buddy AJ. And then way over here is for family and for someone else. And then there's my best friend, and there's some for someone else. And then there's this one. What, did I lose your interest? This one here's for you. This is for you. Are you ready? This is for you, Jackie. That's for you. You want it? Okay, it's yours. Here, I'm going to let you tear it open. You tear it open. Do it. Tear it open. You know how. Here, I'll help. Get it, Jack. Get it. Get it. Get it, Jackie. Get it. There you go. You got it. You got it. What is it? What is it? You got to tear the paper off. What is it, Jackie? Oh my goodness, what is it? And I know you're going to run to the bedroom and take it away from us. Keep going. Keep going. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. You got it, you got it. There you go, there you go. That's the girl I recognize. Can you get it out of the paper? Hey, don't walk away. I know the way you are. You're going to run to the bedroom. We want to explore this with you. Go ahead, you got it. Come on, pull, pull. Come on, pull, pull. What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? Ah, it's a dinosaur. 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 Right here, right here. You got it? You got it? All right, see you later. There she goes, guys. And she's gone. All right. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to do something with her silly on camera, and I thought that would work. But you know, you never know. I spoil my dog. What can I say? I do it all the time. I'm going to put her little treats away. She's going to be busy with that for a little while. So she, just in case you don't know, this was Caitlin's dog. And when she first came to visit me, 2017, I think, she had Jack as a puppy. Little tiny dog on my walkboard right here. Super cute. And of course, I tried to steal this dog from her. And then when she moved in with me, she said, if anything ever happens to me, will you take care of my dog? I said, of course, not knowing that anything would ever happen. So I am definitely taking care of her. And Jack is not my dog. And so I treat her I treat her really well. I try to protect her from the elements. And we entertain each other. I also roughhouse with her, and I get scratched up and bit and all kinds of stuff because I'm a glutton for punishment. But I love seeing her with her teeth bared and her ears back. And I love pets. And I love dogs. I'm a huge dog person, in case you didn't know. Today, earlier, a video dropped where it was... let's get back to the topic for a second, and then we'll talk about that. So when it comes to the gift giving that we mentioned earlier, and I just gave a gift to my dog on camera, see, I knew it was something she'd like, and there was no chance something would go wrong. It's guaranteed. It actually sounds like there's a squeak in there, which I didn't know it had any squeakers. So she will literally extract that like a surgeon through the tiniest of slits, and that'll be the end of that, and it'll be a dead silent toy within 5 minutes. But if you are not sure what you want to buy your spouse, and you absolutely want it to be a surprise, you could go to the fish store they go to all the time and talk with the fish store owner, and if they've gotten a relationship together to where that person would know, he or she would know what your spouse might want. Or it just comes down to if there's a good relationship with the store. The other choice is to buy gift cards from their favorite store or their favorite online store, to where you can just say, here is, whatever, $25, $100, go buy something nice for your tank. Go buy yourself something pretty, hun. I mean, that's what you could do. But yeah, we just don't want to come home with like an octopus or a tree sponge or something. You're like, oh, this is so cool here. and then you're like, oh my God, how am I supposed to? Matter of fact, this is funny. Yesterday, I received a box. It showed up at my door. FedEx was here, and it said on the side, Biota. And Biota makes fish. And I was like, who sent me livestock? I don't want livestock. I don't want to even deal with it. I don't want to know what this is, So I knew it was freezing cold out, as you know. The weather's been really bad the last 48 hours. So I opened up this frozen box. I take off the lid, and thank goodness there was not bags of water in there or bags of ice. It was a bunch of food from Easy Reefs that they wanted me to try out. And so it was shipped through Biota. And so I've got some Fido to try out, and some mastic and some other stuff. And so it's all sitting over there waiting for me to figure out how to use it, and maybe read more, learn more about it, and get myself informed and give it a shot and see what the reef thinks. But yeah, we don't want to surprise our significant others with any kind of livestock unless you literally know this is what they've been wanting all along. If they have been talking about a certain fish or a certain coral for a long time, that's way easier, because you're like, oh, no brainer. I know they want the Sunset Montipora, and then you just go shopping to find who sells Sunset Montipora, right? Easy, easy. But if if you're just like, oh, I've always thought they'd like this really cool yellow fish I saw once on National Geographic, don't do that, okay? Don't take the chance. All right, so our topic is already complete because I told you this would be a quick live stream. I wanted to mention that today earlier a video dropped. I don't know if you saw it, if you got a notification. I got no notifications that it released. I got no notifications that anyone commented on it, but it was a video I did in collaboration with Fritz. They called me, I think Tuesday, and said, what are you doing Wednesday? Please tell me you can come over here and help us with this project. And I said, actually, the timing's perfect. I'm completely caught up with all my customers. I can come out there and spend a few hours with you, but I have to get home to my dog, which turned into 14 hours. Fortunately, my buddy Chris, who's in the local area, was able to run over here and let Jack out for a little while that evening because I didn't get home till 3 in the morning. But we filmed it. Well, actually, Max is their videographer, and he filmed everything. And then he gave me all the footage online where I could download it to edit my own copy of this video. And then he, who's way better at editing, released the official Fritz video. And so if you are curious, you could watch theirs and see the comparison. You can see it's really, I mean, his video is maybe 8 minutes, where mine's 17, of course. Mine had more behind the scenes stuff that I included because I thought it was funny and enjoyable, and I hope you liked that part of it. And it's actually kind of weird to edit a video that was filmed by someone else because you don't know what they've captured. You know, you see the lens, but you don't know what they actually got. And there's so many things he didn't get. And we're just like, did you get that? And of course, he had already put the camera down or turned it off or whatever and didn't include it. And so some of those moments will never happen, but we lived through them. It was funny. We did a live stream that night and for, what, an hour and a half and chatted. I couldn't pay attention to YouTube and read the comments. If I were to do that in the future, I'd bring my iPad with me so that way I could have the chat right there at my lap and I could keep up with what you're saying and possibly type back or answer you on screen. But it was such a, I'd never done it before like that. You know, we were streaming to Instagram, to Fritz's YouTube, to Fritz's Facebook page. I was going to my YouTube. There was a lot of different electronics going out with the broadcast. And so we had to look around the room to all the different lenses that were facing us. But it was fun. And that tank is going to be up for auction. So if you have not erased their Facebook and their Instagram, be sure you do today, because the auction will last from from Christmas Eve all the way to New Year's Eve. And then they will draw, obviously the biggest bidder will get this set up with everything. It comes with the sump, the skimmer, the return pump, the lighting, the tank, the sand, the rock. I mean, you get it all. The only thing you're not going to want is the water, unless you're super local and you're like, yeah, I'll take it. But you're going to get this whole setup, tank and stand, the whole shebang. And that money will be donated to a local charity, which was, now I've got the wrong name in my head. Anyway, it's on the video. It says what it is. So I apologize. I cannot remember the woman's name. My brain is saying Lacey, and I know that's wrong. Maybe someone here can answer. Let me look at some of your comments. Look at all these Merry Christmases. I appreciate that. Rick says, I better do some Christmas shopping. Get something pretty for your family. Larry says, test your water. Oh, what if your spouse could test your water that day so you don't have to do it? What a gift that would be, huh? Yeah, there is some saltwater wrapping paper behind me. You've got the baby shark over here. That's it. And then Jack tore up some shark octopus stuff. But it was fun. It was fun, and she likes it. She loves all animals. She likes to chew on them and destroy them and rip them to shreds. The outfit that Jack was wearing that makes her a little elf was something that Caitlin had bought her years ago. And so I thought I'd put it on for the stream, and she's wearing it. But she's really good about putting on outfits. She dresses for Halloween. She dresses for Christmas. I think we have something for, what's the other holiday? She definitely has some birthday gear for January, because that's when her birthday is. And I just dig in the drawer and look. I found this giant shark. It's all decorated. We got this at Target. It's supposed to be a hat, but I don't know whose head would fit into this. Mine definitely did not, but it is kind of funny to wear on top of your head. I guess if you were a kid, it would fit you perfectly. Maybe it fits Caitlin's head. I'm not sure. But I thought it'd look good here on camera. Yeah, I'll do it this way. I like it better this way. It stays put a little bit better. Let's see, what else do we got here? Oh, nice. Andrea said that she is getting for her kitchen tank some fancy VCA random flow generators. The big tank's gonna get a fleece roller. Fancy. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys, do you know what you're getting, or are you gonna wait till tonight? Or are you gonna wait till tomorrow morning and then open all your stuff? I mean, this is the challenge. You know, how long are you gonna wait? Something else that I did, oh, let me show you guys. You haven't seen it on YouTube. I shared this on my Facebook and on my Instagram, but not my YouTube. So this right here is kind of a small personal pan pizza size pan. So I made the world's first whale shark Linzer torte. So you can see it right there. I can't wait to eat this. Look, the camera's trying to get away from me. Now Jack comes over like, what do you got, Dad? Anyway, this is a whale shark. This was, the cookie cutter was made by that fish cookie guy, that fish cookie guy on Instagram. And he gave it to me at Macna, and I didn't have enough dough to do the crisscross stripes I love to do, you know, the lattice, because that's how I always do these for the large size. This was the remaining dough, so I made myself one, and then I had just enough dough to make the cookie. So I had to chill the dough to make sure it was rigid enough so that I could lift it off carefully and set it on top of the raspberry filling. So this Linzer torte recipe is actually a family recipe from Switzerland. I believe it started in Austria, though. And my aunt is the one. Man, it smells so good. I cannot wait to eat it. But I can't. I have to let it sit under foil for 2 days. Let me wrap this and stop crinkling, and then I need to stop crinkling. Let me mute myself for 1 second here. Unmute. Okay, so the recipe came from my aunt. She was the only one in the family that made this. And if you get Linzer torte anywhere, it's usually not as good as hers. And in Switzerland, when you went to places like the public zoo, they would say they sell blonde Linzer torte. And I'm just like, ew. And then when I bit into it, I was like, even worse than what I thought. I was like, this is horrible. How can you even sell this to people? So the recipe was her secret. And as a young boy, she, you know, I lived in Switzerland, and my family, my grandmother was one of 12 children, lots of aunts and uncles for me. So this is my aunt, Aunt Paula, and she is the one that would make them. And she came over to the house, to my grandmother's house, and my grandmother had this huge table with all these chairs all the way around it, and lots of family members would sit there, and they would be eating and drinking coffee and chatting. And all the kids, like me, would be outside playing and running and screaming. The dessert came in, and Paula said, look what I brought, Mark. I know it's your favorite, which it 100% is. And I was so excited. And then everyone ate some, which is the right thing to do. Except me, I am not that person. I don't want to share. So this giant, beautiful Linzer torte was devoured. And I kind of had a sad face. And she saw that. And she said, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And she said, it's okay. And then she reached behind her and she pulled out another Linzer torte and said, this one is yours. And so I got my own for like the next, whatever, week. And I would just work on it as a kid. You know, just, I love sweets. And I ate the whole darn thing. So a couple years later, whatever, I don't know, 5 years later, I ended up getting the recipe. She taught me how to make it. I went to her house. She showed me how she would chill the dough, how she made it, how she'd chill it, than how she would, make the shape and everything and cut it all out and make it. And she made beautiful ones. Mine are never beautiful. They're tasty as can be, but I could never match how good she was at making the perfect rim on it. The lattice was perfect. Everything just was perfect. I don't know what she did because I was too young. It was too long ago. But still, I'm the only person in the family now that makes it. I mean, she's died years ago, and I am the person that makes it. And so I make it for my son from time to time. I definitely make it for my parents. I've hand delivered them to Arizona, to my mom's house, and then to my dad's house. There was a time where I stayed at my dad's house, and I spent, I don't know, 2 days just making them like 5 or 6 Linzer tortas that they could put in their freezer so they could just cut out slices when they wanted some. And the reason it's so good is that, it's got eggs and flour and sugar and butter, but it has crushed almond in it. It has the dark chocolate is in it. That's why it's not a blonde. It's got Kirschwasser in it, and there's almost 4 tablespoons of that in there. So it has a very nice brandy taste to it. And then you've got the raspberry preserves. You can't just use raspberry jelly. It's got to be raspberry preserves. And then there's a couple other ingredients too. And cinnamon, and there's something called Nelken that came from Germany or Switzerland, which I believe is similar to, but not the same as nutmeg. It might be more similar to allspice. Anyway, I put all that magic together and I make these beautiful things once in a while. So I bought enough ingredients to make another one. And after the live stream today, I'm going to make another one, because this little one's not going to last me long enough. And once one of these is in the house, I have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner till it's gone. Now, the reason it's in the foil for 2 days is because a lot of people are like, oh, it's baked goods, it's got butter in it, you got to keep it in the refrigerator. I don't recommend that. It's been baked, it's fully cooked, but you wrap it in foil and just let it sit there for 48 hours. And that way, when you cut into it, you're not cutting into some kind of hard, crispy cookie dough. It's softer. Every bite is moist and delicious and fantastic. So my friend Dwayne saw a picture of it on Facebook. He says, how come I've never had any of that? And I said, another reason for you to come visit me. So the next time he's here messing with my tank, I'm definitely going to have some here for him to try out. And I remember I came to one Macna. It was the Macna in Boston, actually. And I brought some Linzer torte with me. And my friend's like, did you bring some? I was like, I actually did. And I gave, I cut slivers because it's Macna. Obviously, I couldn't give it to more than maybe 20 people tops. And so we're sitting out there at this little table in the sun, outside where the grass and the blue skies and the white puffy clouds and the big giant schooners out there on the water. And here I am handing out Linzer torte, and people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, how did you make this? And what's the recipe? And did you try this? You got to get over, come here, you got to check this out. And it was a lot of that. So we had a lot of fun. So, all right, enough about baking on Mila's Reef. Let's see, what else do we got here? Oh, good. Thank you for letting me know that, Rick. I didn't know if the notices even went out. It's funny they didn't tell me. Let's see. Aw, Mountaineer Sports and Gaming. Whoever you are, Merry Christmas, Spock. That was really nice. Spock, did you hear that? I'm supposed, I'll probably give you some easy reefs as a gift since it arrived yesterday. Chocolate and sharks. Alex says, are you guys testing your water on Christmas Eve? Well, if you don't do a Christmas Eve, then you got to do a Christmas Day. So which is better for you? You have to decide. I always say water test Saturdays on Saturday, so you kind of have your assignment. You have your homework. Lincoln, I cannot answer that question exactly without some more factoids, but I can tell you this. You got a 75-gallon aquarium. You are trying, that's going to be, it's 6 drops per 10 gallons. So you got 75 gallons, let's call it 80. That's 8 times 6, 42. But why don't you try out more like 25 and then wait till the next day and then measure your phosphates again. And if you need some more, you can put in another 12 or 20 and see what happens the next day. Because you don't want to overdo it. And especially want to be cautious if you have any yellow tangs. If you have a yellow tang, I do too, and I use phosphate RX, never have a problem, but some people do. If you want to protect your yellow tang from whatever weirdness that happens that causes them to not survive phosphate RX, Boost your alkalinity 20 minutes before you dose phosphate RX. Is Jack so loud that it's messing up the thing? Should I go close the door, or are we okay? You have to tell me. Whiskey Clown, I'm so sad to hear that your tank crashed. There's a lot of people that were reporting power outages, freezing pipes, tanks getting cold and trying to wrap them with blankets. What happened to yours? Huang, thank you very much for saying that. He said, Merry Christmas. Mr. Mark, thanks for all the help through these years. Your advice is amazingly appreciated. Happy holidays. Slapsfish says, what's your favorite type of clownfish? Could we say this one for today? So this is from Lazy Coffee Designs, and I bought it in early November. It arrived in November, and I decided I'm going to wear it every Saturday in December. So I keep washing it, and it keeps getting smaller, or I'm getting bigger. I don't know which. Actually, let's talk about my weight for a minute. I've had a couple of people on this channel say, wow, Mark, you're really packing on the pounds. And I almost want to do a contest and see if you guys can guess my weight, because I could just do like whoever guesses it gets a coffee mug. But the thing is that I haven't gained any weight. I'm the same chunky self I've been for 3 years. I haven't gone up a pound. I haven't gone down a pound. I am the same number day in, day out. So whatever weird camera angle you get, because the camera adds 20 pounds, I do need to lose 20. There's no doubt. But yeah, I'm not packing on the pounds. Thank you very much. Oh no, so an overdose of Nopox. That's a bummer. The Nopox product, you have to be very cautious with it, and if you're using a dosing pump, you need to make sure the dosing pump doesn't go crazy. Just like any product. If you had a dosing pump that went crazy with potassium or alkalinity, or I'm trying to think of other things, vodka, these things can do too much. Kalkwasser, right? So we need to have safeties in place or have a really reliable device, but realize something can go wrong. One of the earliest things I did back in the day before we had dosing pumps, I mean, now they're everywhere. You can buy them for nothing, right? I had taken an Aqualift pump, and I took a weird-looking test tube. It was about this tall, that big around, that came to a point, and it held, I don't know, 60 or 80 or maybe 100 milliliters or something. And when I received it, I think it had the powder from methylene blue in it, and I got rid of that because I didn't need it. But I had this empty vial, so I created this tray that sat on the edge of my sump, and I put the Aqualifter tray in there, and I had a thing to hold this test tube up, and I ran tubing into the vial, and I ran tubing into the sump, and the pump was plugged into a digital electronic timer that you could tell it how long to run by the minute. So you could say, come on for exactly this long. And I think I set it to run for like a minute and a half, and it would draw water out of the vial and pump it into the system. And what was in the vial was vodka. And I was I had to travel, and I knew I'd be gone for like 4 or 5 days, and I didn't want to miss any vodka dosing because you're supposed to do it every single day like clockwork. But what I didn't want to do was hook it up to a handle of vodka or a quart or whatever. I wanted to put in the right amount, which might have been, I might have been putting in 15 milliliters a day at that point, which means I could have like 4 or 5 days with no problem. But if all of it went in, I only put in 50 milliliters. I was trying to protect against overdosing. So with Nopox, you actually don't have much choice because they tell you don't pour that stuff in any other container because it'll craze the acrylic, unless you could put it like in glass. But the thing is, it comes in a quart bottle, and as you're putting it in, you're drawing from the cap with the nipple on top. It's designed for dosing pumps, right? But we still want to make sure that it never puts in too much. So I'm sorry to hear that your tank overdosed on that. It's such a bummer. The question, I'm going to go back to the clownfish question because it is a good question. The favorite clownfish for me is the true Percula because no one has it. It's very rare that people have that anymore. Everyone's about Ocellaris and designer clowns, but the true Percula was such a beautiful fish. And then Rod's Bueller, who runs Rod's Food, he used to have a Onyx / True Percula hybrid. And it was fantastic. And I always wanted to get one from him and never did. But that would have been a really nice one. But True Perculas are gorgeous. So if you haven't looked one up, go ahead and look it up online. See if you think I'm right. Maybe you like something else. I don't know, Andrea. They just do. They just, they're just I'm constantly being measured up against society. It's how I throw my weight around. That's what it is. All right. Alex says, how many fish do you have? I don't remember off the top of my head. I would guess somewhere around 23 or 24 are in there right now. Let me scooch over a little bit. Maybe you can see some fish. We've got 4 tangs, 3 anthias. We got 7. We got 11 clownfish. So that puts us at 18. We've got 2 pajama cardinals, I think, maybe 3. Yeah, maybe 3. So that puts us at 21. There's the mandarins, 22. Cleaner Ass, 23. Coral Beauty, 24. I think that's it, 24. And then the clownfish tank that's tied to this reef, so it's the same ecosystem, same body of water, has 14 clownfish. So that puts me at 38. And then there's 2 Bengai cardinal fish. So that puts us at 40 fish total in the ecosystem. Hey, look at that. Andrea says, I have a true perk and it's beautiful. Yes, they are. They're gorgeous. The orange with the black contrast around the white is fantastic. And their eyes also have a different look from Ocellaris, if you've never noticed. Martin says, can you advise how red cyano RX works? What causes red cyano? I've used the treatment twice and always comes back after time. Well, first of all, Martin, cyanobacteria is completely normal and it does come back. It's not a you got rid of it and you'll never have it again scenario. It is always present in your tank, but when it gets into a bloom, in other words, there's an abundance of it, and starts making those red blankets or green blankets on the sand bed or on the rockwork, that is when we don't like it. So the fact that you have it in your tank, you know, it's just there's too much of it right now. That's why you don't like it. If it was still invisible like normal, you wouldn't care at all. And just so you know, in the world, it's in fresh water, it's in brackish water, it's in salt water. And I read some article a couple of years ago, can't remember what I was reading because I'm always on the internet, but they'd found it like something crazy deep in the strata of the earth. That was like a massive pocket of cyanobacteria. And I was like, ha, it's everywhere. It's not just our aquariums. So the Red Cyano RX product or ChemiClean, I recommend either one. Been recommending it for a year, is the simplest solution to getting rid of it when your tank is being plagued by it. And all you got to do is remove any carbon, turn off your protein skimmer, don't take off the cup, turn off your protein skimmer, and go ahead and put the product in the tank. And if you want, for safety reasons, add a big old air stone in there to put a lot of oxygen in the tank, you can. Nothing wrong with that. And then just let the stuff ferment in the tank for 3 days. After 3 days, you want to do a large water change, at least 25% of your water, the more the better. And then you would turn on your protein skimmer again. Your skimmer is probably going to overflow like mad. You could lift it up higher, or you could adjust the water level lower and lift it up higher in the sump to kind of lower that water level inside the body of the skimmer so it won't constantly volcano. And then whatever's coming out in the collection cup, just throw it away. And as much comes out, throw it away and replace that lost watery skimmate with new salt water. You know, don't even have your top off adding water right now, because if your skimmer's pulling out 2-3 gallons, you want 2-3 gallons of salt water to go in. You could top off with salt water if that makes it more convenient. And I have done that once just for curiosity's sake. But it's just so much easier to just pour in a few gallons of salt water and let the skimmer go bonkers and just let it pull out whatever it wants to pull out. And once it stops, it'll stop. It could take hours. You know, it could take 6 hours to settle down. It could take 12. But once it's settled down, it's done. Most people will say, oh yeah, I use ChemiClean or I use Red Cyano RX. And I couldn't use my skimmer for weeks after that. I just had to turn it off and give up. And it's like, no, you just need the skimmer to pull out whatever it is that's irritating it. And then once it settles down again, it'll be fine. And so if you just deal with it that day, you will get it under control. You are smarter than a protein skimmer. So you just keep letting it waste. You keep putting more salt water in. Boom, everything's fine. And your cyano will be gone. There is an article on my website that literally explains all of that. You could just type in, I don't know, cyano treatment Milev in Google, and it'll take you to my blog. And you can read that over, and that way if there's anything you forgot from this conversation, which happens, you can read it there. It's also, if you come to my website and you're buying Red Cyano RX, because I sell it, in the description I put a link, I think, straight to that blog to where you can just hop over there and read more. Or maybe it's just right in the product description, because I described how I do it. Aw, John, He says, watching for a bit with my family, my daughter's favorite clownfish is the pink skunk clownfish we call Rose. That means you need another fish that's kind of a little bit of a troublemaker named Jack. Josh says, my favorite, absolutely loves maroon clownfish. And I love my lightning. I just got it a month ago. Are lyre-tailed anthias hardy and easy to care for, like some say? I don't have any problem with it. I put them in and they live. But you need to feed frequently. And they need to be acclimated properly. Lyre-tail, and probably other anthias too, but lyre-tail specifically are huge oxygen gulpers. They're very active and they need to breathe. And some people do this whole acclimation with like a drip, and it's very slow, and they do it for hours, and you're basically oxygen depriving that fish. And then they put it in their tank, and like, oh, it just must be a difficult fish. It's like, no, you're acclimating it way too slowly. From the point you get that fish, it's a race against time. If you went to the fish store and you had to drive an hour, you could lose one, and I did. I drove home from Dallas, and by the time I got home, it was already dead. So I went back to Dallas and told him, listen, I need you to bag it with oxygen, which that store did, and I came home with that fish, and it didn't die. So the acclimation process I highly recommend for lyre-tail. Get it home as fast as you can, and then acclimate it within 45 minutes flat. Just get it into your water as soon as you can. If you must, during the acclimation, add an air stone immediately. Put a little heater in there too, so you maintain the temperature of that water, and let it be in there while you're doing whatever drip system you like. But I don't even recommend that. I prefer more the part where you cut open the bag and you can pour some of the water out, and then you can basically scoop some water into the bag, and then in 7 minutes, scoop more water in the bag, in 7 minutes, scoop more into the bag, and you keep doing this until you've doubled the water volume, and then at that point, the fish is ready for safety stop, or it's ready for a quarantine tank, or it's ready to go in your aquarium if you don't do any of those things. But we definitely want to be on top of getting the acclimation as quickly as possible to lyre-tail. That's best success, in my opinion. I'd be curious to see if others disagree with that. Fortunately, not a lot of people argue with me, but that is my personal experience. I've had lyre-tail for many, many years. Currently, I have the beautiful bimaculatus, male and female, and I have this one lone lyre-tail that there was another one that was transitioning to purple and just one day vanished. I guess an anemone ate it because it just went away. I never saw it die. I didn't find it on the floor. I didn't find it in the rockwork. It was just gone. Aquapuncture says, they'll probably find cyano on Mars. I love that. Makes sense. It's the red planet. They need a giant jar of ChemiClean. Alex says, is it true that new tanks with dry rock are more likely to get cyanobacteria? So, like I said, cyano is present everywhere. It's always there. It's in your brand new tank. It's on everything. It's on your corals. It's with your fish. It is a bacteria that is invisible. But when all the conditions are perfect, it can bloom. And like I said, it's seasonal. So it could be just because the way the light's coming through the windows of your home toward your aquarium could activate it. And you could find that a lot of people are all dealing with cyano right now. And then other times of the year, no one has it. Now, there are some people that just live with it nonstop for weeks and months because they want to go the natural way. And there's nothing natural about getting rid of cyanobacteria. There just isn't. Just use the product to get rid of it. But if you want to do the natural way, everyone's going to say reduce your nutrients, which means feed less, which means everything's starving, and run your lights less, which means corals can't grow as well as they normally would, and increase your circulation by putting more power heads, which is probably good advice anyway. Odds are your tank can always use more circulation. But the product just solves the problem in 3 to 5 days, and you can just enjoy your tank. And I can't tell you how many times over the years I've seen people post, I tried everything, I didn't want to put chemicals in my tank, and finally I listened to what Mark said, and I should have done this 6 months ago. And I'm like, oh my God, you've been living with cyano for 6 months? No. So the other thing I would say is if you start to see it happening, while it's just kind of breaking out hints here and there, that's the best time to treat while it's still minimal. You don't want to wait until you have this insane, like the skirt that goes around your Christmas tree, right? You don't want blankets of it everywhere. And if you have lots of it in your tank, you want to siphon out as much as you can before you treat the tank. I used to live on the forums back in the early 2000s, and out of all the threads, and I read hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 threads on cyanobacteria, 3 are the only ones I recall where the water turned pink after they put the medication in. And that's because their tank was so badly infested with cyanobacteria that when the medication hit the water, it turned the water reddish. And of course, lots of things started dying because it was just so much. So whenever you're dealing with a problem like that, you want to remove as much as you can before you put the medication in and let it treat the last of it. If you're treating the tank early before it can get bad, that will also help. Matter of fact, this is interesting. So I've had these chalices here. There's one here and there's one over here. Oh, can't see it. It's behind the present. And the chalices recovered. They turned bone white when I had that lack of potassium in my reef. And then I dosed a bunch of potassium and they got their color back, right? They turned pretty again. But then over time, they lost some pigment. And they look kind of half crappy. I mean, they just don't look good. Believe it or not, one of the suggestions Chris Meckley from ACI told me to do was to take the coral out and put it in a chemi-clean dip. So he told me exactly how much to use. I have to go back to our text to see what he told me because I forgot. But I would literally take this coral out, put it in a chemi-clean dip for so many minutes, and then put it back in the tank and do it again in 3 days, and then put it back in the tank, and then just keep putting in the solution for a little bit, and it would somehow help this chalice heal. I really need to try it because I'm very curious if it'll work, and I need to quit being such a procrastinator and get my arm wet and put it in there so we can have a success story. I would like to do that. Atkins Nature Aquarium says, is the same effect to add the air stone in the sump rather than placing in the tank? Well, since your fish are in the tank and they are the ones that need the oxygen, I would suggest that you have it in the display in front of a power head that's just like pushing the bubbles through the tank. That's how I would handle it. I have never had to actually have an air stone in my tank. I mean, it's super rare. I did it one time where my ORP, which is the oxygen reduction oxygen reduction potential, when that probe dropped like a rock, and it just basically said your oxygen levels dropped, as far as I understand the information. And I put in this huge ceramic air stone that was very heavy, and I just dangled it down in front of the Vortec and just let it blow air into the tank. And I did that to save my livestock because I had made a mistake and I had massively overdosed vitamin C because I just didn't think it was a big deal. And when I put it in the tank, the entire tank reacted, and I called a buddy and said, can you just walk me through every question you can think of? Because I don't know what the heck I did wrong to my tank. And he said, after he finally said, did you put in vitamin C in your tank by any chance? I was like, yes. Why? No big deal, right? He goes, how much did you put? And I told him. He said, oh my God, that's way too much. You have to ramp up. You put in like nothing. And then a week later, you put in a little bit more. And, you go from 1/8 of a teaspoon, to then a 1/4 teaspoon to, whatever, just microscopic amounts. And I'd put in like 3 teaspoons that day. I just stirred it up and poured it in. And because I knew it was good to make zoanthids look prettier. It was a thing that, people were doing back, like I said, back then. And so I messed up. And he told me, take off the collection cup off your skimmer, let it be a volcano in the sump, add an air stone, open the doors and windows, bring air. I had a big floor fan blowing air into the house, anything I could do to bring oxygen up in the tank. And I didn't lose any livestock. I just had some really angry hammer corals and Duncan corals for a while, but they all opened up again. And the fish, they seemed okay too. But yeah, it was a mistake. It was an oops. I just didn't, it was just a brain fart. Sometimes we just do something stupid because we didn't know the entire process and kind of did something off the cuff, and I did something off the cuff. But I put the air stone in there. Having it oxygenate down in the sump may be useful, but there's no harm putting it in your tank. It's okay to do it during a situation like treating with ChemiClean or Red Cyano RX. And then after it's all said and done, you can just remove the stone and everything's back to normal. The benefit of having the protein skimmer turned off during those 3 days is you can take it out of the sump and you can clean it top to bottom. You can actually run it in a vat of vinegar and water, or citric acid and water, or muriatic acid and water, whatever is your favorite poison, and go ahead and just really break it down. Clean the pumps, clean the body, clean the inside, clean the venturi, clean the tubing, clean the silencer. Just make it brand new again. And then when you put that bad boy back in your sump, boy, is it going to look like you just turned the water to milk. You're going to be so impressed. So, and like I said, it'll want to overflow. But that's part of the fun, right? Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Thank you all you for wishing me Merry Christmas. And I'm singing back to you, of course. Josh, if you are shipping lyre tails, they're going to pack them with oxygen. You'll be okay. But you want to place your order, like you said, you're going to order on Monday. It's good because that's for a Tuesday delivery. But make sure Monday is a good day. I don't know where you live. I don't know where you're shipping from. But with what's going on with the weather right now and the conditions with the shippers and all that, I mean, we're just coming out of the holidays. I'm sure they're relieved they're not going to be having to ship 10 million more packages by the 24th, right? But we don't want to deal with ice storms and shut down hubs. You know, you want to double check with the seller. And you might even say, look, let's ship it the first week of January, you know, just to make sure that it's a time that's right. I really don't like buying livestock online during the harshest months. You know, the crazy hot summer, the crazy cold winter. I like to be more mild. But if you're ordering from a place that is, you know, I don't know, Florida to California, the only thing you have is it's going through Memphis, which is frozen. It's going to go through Chicago, frozen. It's going to go through DFW, which, by the way, was frozen recently. And 4,000 flights were canceled in one day on Friday. So the weather can affect shipping. But yeah, always order early in the week for early arrival. Never order any kind of livestock to arrive on a Friday. That is the worst decision you'll ever make. You will lose money and you will lose livestock because when something goes wrong, and something will go wrong, they won't deliver. And they do not care that it's a living animal in the box. You can make as much noise as you want. To them, you're just another walk, 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 like Charlie Brown. And they're not going to go into the warehouse and go find your box. They're not going to do it. I actually had to do a sump install for a client in New Jersey. I shipped everything. It was due to arrive on this date. I flew in that day. And when we got there, they said, no, we can't deliver it. Can't find the boxes. So my buddy and I drove to the actual UPS facility. And I've been to places before. No, it must have been FedEx facility. But I'd never been to this kind of place. So let me paint a picture, because it was so weird. You see this giant concrete building like you see any other warehouse, right? And when you walk through the doors, there is a huge, there's a concrete center with one or two windows, like you're buying tickets for a movie. And then there was like fences on either side with like a turnstile type divider. I mean, you had to have like a badge that you'd scan, and then, you know, this thing is head to toe a thing of prongs. I don't know what these things are called. You know, most people think turnstile, they think of the three little arms. This is like a Christmas tree that turns, right? And all these bars are to keep you from getting to the other side. And so we go to the window and we said, we need these boxes. We need them now. I'm literally here to install what's in that box. I need it because when I fly home, you can't just bring it because I won't be here. I'm literally the installer. I need this. And so the woman said, well, I'll go check. And we're just watching. We're standing in this weird, humongous lobby where, like I said, you could not get in, right? But you would look off into the distance, so far away, so far away. And there was all these conveyors in the background, shooting boxes back and forth. And the little tiny people, not because they're Oompa Loompas, because they're so freaking far away, they look tiny. I'm telling you, this building was massively long, like it was an airplane hangar with no airplanes. And then after all the airplanes, now is where all the boxes are being sorted and sifted and sent all over the place. So the lady came back. She said, sorry, can't find it. And I said, you gotta find it. You gotta do this. And she said, can you describe the box? And, you know, of course, most people say it's cardboard, it's brown. But I had learned a trick of how to pack sumps differently from David at Next Reef, where he came up with a system where he made a sleeve that's 4 sides, that's open on both ends. And then he would make these caps that would be an end piece with a flap, 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 and he would glue and tape that. So it was almost like this really weird looking Tootsie Roll. I mean, I can't even explain the exact look, except you had the box, and then you had these weird like covers on the end that had like a 4-inch lip all the way around. And I had my white tape on it, or maybe I had Mila's Reef tape, so white and blue possibly. And I said, if you can find something that looks like this, I guarantee you no one has a box like that in the back. And she says, all right, I'll go look one more time. And she came back with a dolly with my 3 boxes, and I was so happy. And she goes, they're exactly how you described them. That made it so much easier because, you know, when they're looking at 10,000 boxes and I don't even know how many pallets, the fact of you getting your package at all is a miracle in my opinion. But anyway, why am I on this topic? Shipping? I can't even remember how I got so sidetracked. No, I have not had any eggnog yet. Oh, thank you, Justin. He says, I'm digging the daytime lighting. This is the color I do for streaming. So it actually looks good on camera, but to the eye, it's kind of too yellow, you know, in person. But the camera adds some blue automatically, so. But it makes it where you can see what's going on in the tank, which is nice. Hey, Mike, Merry Christmas to you. And aw, that's nice to hear from Blizzard as well. Jack says, woof, woof back. Thanks, John. He gave me my missing word. I only see it, 15 minutes later. Thomas says, how many bubble tip anemones can I have in my 65-gallon tank? You can have as many as you want. John says, cyanobacteria was the first organism to produce oxygen. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds true. Atkins says, first time owning a sump. That explains why he asked about the airstone. The video that we just did last night, or that was uploaded today with the Fritz collaboration, we talk about the sump a little bit. So if you haven't watched that video yet, be sure to check it out. I uploaded it 5 hours ago, so it's on this channel. And we explain how the sump operates. And then there's like 5 videos on this channel about sumps. Thank you very much for the super chat, Thomas. I appreciate that. All right, any more questions? I think we should wrap up. I don't want to go super long because I know you guys have things to do and family to see and food to cook and cookies to bake and liquor to drink. But I do want to remind you today is Water Test Saturday. I'm going to keep my eyes for any more questions. Thank you, Amanda. I love this shirt too. I want to wear it all the time, at least for Christmas. But Water Test Saturday is so important to your livestock because we want to make sure everything's healthy, all the water parameters are good and solid and trustworthy, and it's not just, it looks fine, it's okay. We want to know for a fact what the numbers are, so if there is something that's starting to get off track, we can correct it now before we start losing livestock. Water tests save lives. This is a saying that Caitlin said years ago, and I love it, and I'm going to keep saying it every Saturday in this live stream because it's absolutely true, and she gets all the credit. Let's see. Alex says, have you heard about the ATI Stratton lights? Do you think it's a good light fixture? I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it. That was easy. Whiskey Clown says, why do I suffer from phosphates? Phosphates come from the food usually, and of course from fish waste. So the more food you put in the tank and the more the fish are pooping, the more likely the phosphates rise. But phosphates are not evil, and you don't need to fear them. You just need to make sure they don't get out of control. Phosphates can be as low in a reef tank as low as 0.03. But really 0.1 or below is usually good enough for most reef tanks to look very nice. It's when it becomes 0.5, 0.75, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Once you hit 3.0, the phosphate is now in the rock and in the sand bed, and even if you can remove it from the system, it will keep leaching out of the rock and sand forever. And you're going to have to work so hard to extract it. And trust me, I did that in early 2004, 2005. I was putting in 2-3 sheets of nori a day in my tank for all the tangs, and my phosphates were 3.0. And when I started using lanthanum chloride to lower my phosphates in the tank, I had to do it and do it and do it and do it because as soon as I brought the phosphates down, within a couple of days, it rose up again because it all came out of the rock into the water column again. And I'd knock them down again, it would leach out again, and I'd knock them down again. And I kept doing that over and over and over. And that wasn't the only time in my life. There was another time where I had an auto feeder. I'd put it on top of the tank. I just filled it up for the month, and I went away for the weekend. And when I came home, there was nothing in the tank. The tank looked normal. But I think the skimmer tried to overflow a little bit. But when I got up on the stepladder to feed the fish, I could just see the auto feeder spinning and spinning and spinning. It was completely empty, which meant while I was gone, I don't know, we'll exaggerate and say 10 pounds of food went into the water, right? But it was the entire container, which should have lasted, it's supposed to put in some crumbs every few hours, right? And it just dumped everything in. And so there was nothing to catch because when I came home, the water was clear. I didn't see that. but phosphates shot up. So for like the next 2 weeks, I used phosphate RX every other day. I put it in, and I waited 2 days, and I put it in again, and I waited 2 days, and I put it in again. And I did that for about 2 weeks, and then they were back to staying down where they belonged on a regular basis. So that's how I handle it. But I've never been worried about it. I'm way more concerned with nitrate than I am with phosphate. Let's see. Aquapuncture says he's baking now. He or she. Sorry, I don't know your name. Oh, thank you, Atkins. I appreciate that. Loved the Fritz video and your extra long video replacing the big sump. Yeah, that was a long one. It was probably too long, but I kind of wanted to show what I used to have and compare it to what I had new, the contrast. And I don't know, I can't do short stuff on YouTube. I'm just terrible at it. Everyone's saying I need to do the YouTube shorts. Those are like a minute and a half. Like, how am I ever going to say anything in 90 seconds or less? It's impossible. MC Hammer Torch says, Merry Christmas from Germany. Hey, do you have a Christmas tree up in your house that has candles hanging on it that you light tonight, or is it a are you using Christmas lights that you plug in? I'm very curious. Santana Reef says, nothing matters till football starts at 4:30, but this live stream. Thank you. Whiskey Clown, the algae problems you're dealing with since you set up the tank also are part of setting up a new tank. So I don't know the age of your tank, but let's just pretend it's been 5 or 6 months. You are still dealing with the ugly phases. But having a cleanup crew in there is really important to keep algae under control. If you don't have enough mouths mowing it down all the time, it will just continue to grow. And then, like I was saying, if you knock down those phosphates, you're stealing some of what the algae uses to grow in abundance. Because I can tell you this, anytime I've treated my tank with phosphate RX to knock it down, within a few days the algae is weak and I can pull it out a lot more easily. So it does have an effect. Another option for treating for algae in the tank, not cyano, but talking about like hair algae, bubble algae, is Flux RX. So that's another product you could potentially use to control it, to kind of get your tank back under control. But at the same time, you gotta have enough critters in there that are constantly crawling over the rock and climbing up the glass and keeping things clean, because otherwise you become the cleanup crew and you have to do it. And you're not working on cleaning the tank 24 hours a day. They will do it around the clock. So you want to get yourself a bunch of hungry snails and hermit crabs and emerald crabs and cucumbers and urchins. I mean, just a gamut of critters that will all be constantly looking at it and seeing what they can snack on. John says, any idea why I can't keep zoas and zinnia while all my other softie and LPS are thriving? Well, something's not right, and I would say that because the zinnia is usually that canary in a coal mine, and if zinnia's happy, your water's doing good. And if zinnia's not happy, if it just melts away, something went wrong. Technically, that would be alkalinity. So you're going to have to look at your water tests and see what was your last number, what is it now? Maybe your kit is old and you're getting false readings, but if you can get the water squared away, zinnia should do fine. And then zoanthids, they're usually pretty rugged, but if salinity of the tank is too high, that will make zoanthids close. So there's a couple of thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why things open and close and don't do well. Thomas, thank you very much for the super chat. That was very nice of you. He wished us Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, or he wished it to me. I don't want to say me and Jack. Alex says, what are my current NO3 levels? Currently, my nitrate was measuring around 65 when I checked it a week ago. Hey, Tannenbaums should have candles on them too. Mike says, have you been in contact with Evan recently? How's he doing? I haven't talked to him in a few months, but today on my On This Day Memories thing on Facebook, there was a picture of Evan from like 2009, I think it was. And I almost wanted to share it to him and say, how are you doing? So it's funny you brought that up because I just ran into that earlier today. Josh says, do you think $2.99, so let's just say $300, is a great deal for a 5 to 6 inch rainbow acanthophilia? It's really a showpiece and worthy. The orange, purple, blue, hints of green. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but I mean, that's a gorgeous coral. So I would totally see you doing that. Okay, thank you, Whiskey Clown, for explaining that. So the tank's 5 years old. You also mentioned something about fish. Maybe you have too many fish, possibly. It's going to be a matter of getting the right balance for your aquarium. And if you can balance everything out, if you stay on top of your maintenance, if you are using the right products to remove phosphate from the system, that will help immensely. I'm not actually, the reason I keep saying phosphate RX is because I'm not a GFO user. A lot of people like GFO. So I will tell you about GFO, granular ferric oxide, if you, maybe you've used it but didn't really understand how it works. Maybe you know everything. I don't know. I don't know what you know. But I'm just going to describe it for anyone else that's listening. GFO needs to go into a reactor. There's lots of reactors on the market, and the first one that I ever saw that made sense was the one from Two Little Fishies. It was called the Fosband reactor. And it was a tube that had water going in, down a tube, bubbling up through the media, and then coming out another tube, and you could hang it on the edge of your sump, and it would just take water from the sump and put water back in. And you would put in a certain amount of GFO at the bottom of the reactor. And usually, if you're going to run it at all, if you've never used it, you would use like 25% of what they recommend to start off with. But there's a hassle factor to running GFO, because when you first set it up, you have to rinse it out. And as you're rinsing it out, you're kind of throwing some away. But it's very important you rinse it out. And then when you hook it up to your tank, now that it's been rinsed, you need to hook it up in a way to where the first whatever, quarter gallon, half gallon gets wasted as well. Because when you pump water in, you're going to burp the GFO, and all those fines are going to go up. And those fines, that little bits of metal, can pump up into your display tank, and it can actually hurt your fish. So people were doing things like putting a filter sock under the output of the GFO reactor and filling it up with floss, anything to capture those fines. But it's just easiest to run the tubing to a bucket, turn it on, get the flow very, very low so that the media is barely moving. It should look like a moon earthquake, just a moonquake, right? Just barely moving. That's how it should look. It should not be cascading like biopellets or something. So you've got it barely moving, and then once the water's clear coming out, you're not getting any more stuff into the bucket. Use a white bucket so you can see. Then you put the tube in your sump. Now, the water going in will be full of phosphate. What should be coming out is zero phosphate. If it's coming out as high as it's going in, there's not enough GFO to do the job. And then GFO, according to Julian Sprung, once a week you're supposed to open the valve to kind of belch it a little bit, to kind of to make sure it doesn't turn into a hardened thing, because alkalinity and calcification can happen to turn into a brick inside the base of the reactor. So we need to make sure to kind of give it a little bit of a kick, but not enough to send the fines into the reef, okay? And then after like 3 or 4 weeks, then you had to replace it and start all over again with the whole rinsing process. And I was just like, I hate this stuff. I think I used it for 6 or 9 months, and I used multiple brands. Nothing was working. And then I stumbled on something called Phosbuster Pro, which to this day is basically Phosphate RX. And that stuff was way easier, and I've never looked back. I've just only used Phosphate RX to control the phosphate in my tank. For a decade, I used it without any kind of filter sock. I just literally put it in the tank, and the protein skimmer pulled it out. It was that easy. I have a whole video on how to use that product. It's not expensive in my opinion. It does the job. My reef looks good, and I don't have algae problems. So that's why I recommend it. I like to recommend the things I use myself. Well, if you don't know how to use it, watch my video again on that. There's literally a video on this channel about how to use Phosphate RX. And it's a long one. It's like, I don't know, 14 minutes. Michael says, how do you get rid of nitrates? Mine are getting up to 60 and phosphates are 0.35. I have a 180-gallon tank. Well, your phosphates are too high. You can knock that down with Phosphate RX like I just told Whiskey Clown. And then nitrates, the easiest way to get those in half is to change 90 gallons of your water. That would be ideal. There is a product from Brightwell that you can use that's called Nitrate R. So nitrate with an R on the end, which probably stands for reduction. But I really wish they just called it D, like a capital D, Nitrate R. That would have made way more sense. And it's a super buoyant resin that you would put in a reactor. And so you want to make sure that you're way low in that reactor, like down low. The reactor is much taller because it's going to want to float really hard. So the bigger the reactor, the wider, so all that stuff's near the bottom be ideal, in my opinion. And that way you can run this. And the beauty of this resin is it absorbs the nitrate, and you can recharge it over and over and over. So you use this resin forever. And that is another method you can use to knock it down. There's vodka dosing. There is cleaning your sand bed. There is the no-pox, but like someone mentioned earlier today, they overdosed their tank. I actually did not use as much as recommended. I was just shy. Like, I think it was the math said I needed 54 milliliters a day, and I think I was putting in like 45 a day. So I was using less than what was recommended, and my tank was an absolute nightmare of this pink goo everywhere. It was awful. So I went through like 4 or 5 bottles trying to think that would solve my nitrate problem, so I could have a nice topic, and I could talk about how no-pox is great. And it just didn't work for me. It was frustrating. I mean, there's other products that didn't work for me either. So that's why I have nitrate. Froof says, what would cause hammers and frog spawn to shrivel up and bail out? Parameters are all in line as well as ICP testing. P.S. It's warmer in Colorado today, so you can keep your hat. Wow, well, look at you. Why don't you go out there and do a little skiing then? Polyp bailout can happen from a coral that's unhappy. It could be picked on. It could be a fish is picking at it. It could be something like a hermit crab or a emerald crab is ripping out those heads. It could just be there's a problem. Like, believe it or not, cyanobacteria could be in the core of the coral and causing it to not do well. And there was a time, I know, I feel like I'm repeating the same topics in today's live stream, but I had this big, beautiful pink hammer colony in my tank. It was like half of a volleyball. And it was just closed up. And it was miserable. And it stayed miserable for weeks. And I said, well, this isn't going to live if it keeps being like this. And I kept sitting from across the room in pitch darkness, watching the reef to see if any fish were messing with it, if anything was crawling and picking at it, like peppermint shrimp, cleaner shrimp, you know, things that have the little pincers. But nothing was touching it. It just wasn't happy. And I just had this weird thought strike me. Why don't I treat the tank for cyanobacteria in case there's some inside the colony? So I treated the tank, and the colony opened up and got back to normal. I was like, that is so crazy. I can't believe I was right. But it happened, you know? So occasionally people tell me they have problems with their euphilia, and I think maybe it's a cyano thing happening inside the core that's really irritating the coral. But that's not 100%. Okay, that was me having a weird one-off. Maybe I just should have bought a lottery ticket that day instead. Mike says, you took a bullet for us with that GFO. Yeah, I don't ever want to deal with that ever again. Will Marsh says he's at home cleaning his desk, showering the little ones. With what? Showering them with gifts, with love, with presents, literally giving them a shower? What's happening at this desk? I'm so confused. Okay. Well, Whiskey Clown, since the tank is so simple, you said it's old, it might be just worth doing a reset. Remove the A-cans you've got, put them in something temporarily, clean the tank top to bottom, start fresh, get a new bag of live sand, possibly get some new live rock from the fish store, and put that in there and just kind of get going again. Put the A-cans in there and just get back to your normal reefing experience. There's no reason to be miserable and hating your tank or frustrated. You know, sometimes we just need someone to come and help, and sometimes we just have, you know, but this tank's small enough. You can handle this. I would just go in there. I would just reset it, clean everything, just start fresh. All right, guys, I think, oh, there's another couple comments I didn't see. Yeah, that's it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you have a wonderful holiday weekend. And I hope you stay safe and the power doesn't turn off and you have a nice fireplace and you have hot cocoa and you get some really cool gifts. And make sure you kiss your loved ones because you never know when things can change. Bye, guys.